I was reminded of this testimony while I was watching someone else's testimony, which is similar to mine. I had actually forgotten about this testimony or hadn't thought about it in a while. And yeah, I thought that I should share with you guys because, we are told to share testimony to encourage others. So don't mind the hair bonnet. Well, it's not hair bonnet, it's a heating cap because today is my day to deep condition my hair. And, I couldn't do it any other day. And today is the day. So don't mind this. And also, tomorrow, my kids have early release. So today's the only day that I can film this week. So that's why the heating cap is on while I film this video. So don't mind the heating cap. Anyway, today I just want to share with you a testimony of how, God really blessed my kids 2 years in a row for Christmas. I was led to share this testimony because a week ago I was watching a testimony of someone else who she shared a testimony of how her kids were blessed during Christmas and a difficult time in her life. So mine is kind of similar. It really reminded me of my testimony because it's kind of similar in the sense that, yes, my kids were really blessed and abundantly, but the circumstances are totally different. So this was about 6 years ago. About 6 years ago, my kids were very little. My daughter was like 2. My son was around 1. I was a stay-at-home mom around that time. It was around the time where I was transitioning. I was looking into changing careers. I had been in the hospitality industry a long time. I even have a degree in that. And I just wanted to change careers and do something else. But things did not work out the way that we planned and became a stay-at-home mom. But God did bless us around that time because that's when my in-laws opened their home to us and were gracious enough for us to live with them. And I know that that's not an easy decision, and it's very hard to live with other people. But yes, they were amazing, and they opened their doors to us to live with them. So one of the things we didn't have to worry about is, paying rent. But we were a family of 4 and we had to survive on one income. And we all know, in the economy that we have today, even back then, one source of income is not enough. Anyway, so since I was a stay-at-home mom, and funds were tight, we were running on a really tight budget. I couldn't, go out as much because even though we had 2 cars, they both used a lot of gas, and we were now living outside of town. Like everything was far away from us. Before we moved in with my in-laws, we were close to everything. We were right in the middle of town. Now we were in the outskirts of town, so everything was farther away. We had 2 cars, but one of them we weren't paying on it. We owned it, but they both required a lot of gas. So that really limited how much I went out with my kids because I like to do activities with them and not be at home all the time. If you're a stay-at-home mom, you know what that's like. So that also meant I didn't go to church every Sunday. So the church that I was going to at the time during the holidays, and I'm sure a lot of churches do this, they like to give back to people who are less fortunate. They like to give back to people that are in the community, and also give back to people who are probably in their congregation. So the church I was going to, they did that. They help people in the community, not only during the holidays, throughout the year. There are different ways that they help within the community, but during Christmas time, they would help in the community, can. They would also help, families that they knew were struggling and that needed, that needed a little help. So one of the things that they did is that they would have they would have a big Christmas tree in the lobby, and they would find out, the families, I don't know how, but they would find out the families that are, not doing well that year, that, that would really appreciate, like, being blessed with Christmas gifts. Um, and they would put envelopes of those families on the Christmas tree, and then they'll tell, people in the congregation, to pick a family and to buy, Christmas gifts for the kids in that family. And the amount that they would say to spend on each kid was $50 a kid. So you weren't forced to participate. They would say whoever has the funds, whoever is willing to, bless another family, they would do that, and I have participated in that once. And, it's such a joy to help other families. So, they did that. And that year, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't going to church that much. But my family was one of the families that they put on that they chose to bless for Christmas. And a family picked, us to bless my kids with Christmas gifts. Now, I don't know how they found out, how they knew, that we were, not doing well financially, that we were struggling. I don't know how they find that out. Probably the Holy Spirit. I mean, looking back, the Holy Spirit, tells them, who to bless. But I didn't know that we were one of the families that they would pick to bless. So I think a week before Christmas, I get a message from the church, and they said, like, hey, would you be able to find a day to come over to the church, because we have Christmas gifts for your kids. So I was like surprised, and I was like, Christmas gifts for my kids, and and I was confused, because I didn't really, at the time, when when you're going through so much, and you're struggling, you're not really thinking about. So I was confused and I was surprised, because at that time, we're just thinking about, okay, we'll make sure that we get each other gifts, of course, get a gift for my in-laws, and then a gift for our kids, whatever we can. We weren't going to, like, go above and beyond or break the bank to do that, because we had to be really smart about our spending. So I really wasn't aware that, we were picked, and it's not like we told people that, oh, we're going through financial trouble or anything like that. But God did appeal to the people at the church, and placed it in their heart to bless my kids. And when I went to church to pick up the gifts, I did not really expect much. I just thought it maybe probably like 2 or 3 gifts each for my kids, and whatever. I didn't expect a lot. But when I tell you guys, I went to the church, and the church is about almost an hour away, which is a reason why I wasn't going every Sunday. So I went to the church to go pick up the gifts, and they come with this, like, huge trolley. And I was like, oh, that's a lot of gifts. So I'm thinking, it's probably me and some other families, and they just didn't want to go back and forth. They're just bringing it so that they can just, like, give my portion to me, and then go back with the trolley inside, and for whatever family, that the other family that was going to come get their gifts. I did not know that that whole trolley was for my kids. Like, I have an SUV, a Tahoe. So the trunk, if you know, the trunk is pretty big. When you put up the seats, the back seats of the trunk is a lot of space. The trunk was full of gifts. I was just like, and I was like, as I was like, this is all for my kids. They're like, yeah, this is for your kids. I was like, they were like, you were picked as one of the families to be blessed, and and the family picked you from the tree, and they bought your kids gifts. And I was like, oh my gosh. And now the thing about this is that they don't tell you who it is that got you the gifts, is completely anonymous. And they do tell you, like, hey, it's completely anonymous, and they won't know who bought the gifts for them. So, you know, even the church I go to now, like when we're told to like bless, a family, or, an organization, or like, people are less fortunate, it's usually anonymous. So I don't know which family that was. And I was like so surprised. And one thing I learned, you know, through the years after having my kids is how God just like blessed my kids above and beyond that I could ever ask for. Like, I have so many testimonies when it comes to like my kids, like after having my kids, and how God just blessed us even in times of hard times, the times where things were just like not going well, but like God was just always looking out for my kids and blessing my kids. And it's just like sometimes it feels like they will say a desire, or they'll ask for something, and just God just instantly just answers them, or just gives it to them. So I just learned about God's generosity and his how big his heart is through my kids. Um, but anyway, I was so surprised, and I was just like crying on the way home, because I was just like, oh my gosh, I've never received that many gifts in my life. Growing up in Zimbabwe, like we would get 2 or 3 gifts, and we're happy with that. It was very simple. We wouldn't have a Christmas tree full of gifts, but that Christmas, we like were running out of space. There was like it was overflowing. Like, when it says like God gives like overflow, um, like he blesses you like an overflow of blessings. That's what it felt like. Like there was so many gifts. My son was so overwhelmed. He was one at the time. He was so overwhelmed. Like he opened one gift, and then he was like, I'm done. And he couldn't even open the other gifts. Like he opened one, and then he was just focused on that one. He was just overwhelmed with the amount of gifts that there were, that I had to open the gifts for him. My daughter was just like excited. She was different. She was so excited. She was opening every gift, and just like every gift was just like, I mean, it felt like they received toys like the whole store of Toys R Us. That's what it felt like, but it's probably not the whole store of Toys. It wasn't that bad, but it felt like that. She got so many toys, and I wish I have I had a video to like show that moment. If I do, I'll put it on the screen. But it was so much, and and I was just like, all I could do, was pray for that family, and that God will bless them, because I don't know who it was. I couldn't call them. I couldn't send them a message. Nothing. So all I could do was just pray for them, and just thank God that he blessed us so much, and that my kids didn't have to feel the weight of, this hard season we were in. They didn't realize that we were struggling. They didn't realize we were surviving on one income, because they were just continually blessed by strangers, by people that we know. And I was like, wow, that's great. There's some gifts I even kept. I was like, okay, I'll save some, and I can give them on their birthday, which I learned from my friends. Like, if your kids get a lot of gifts, save some, and then give them on their birthday because they don't realize and they don't notice that it's a gift that they got from Christmas because they haven't opened it. They won't know. Even if it's some gifts that they opened, I would grab some and I'll like rewrap them for their birthday. And, it's a great way to save money. So that's what I did with some of the gifts. I'd save some and they didn't even notice, especially my son didn't even notice that we took some and we saved them to give them on their birthday, the following year. And I thought that would be it. I was like, wow, that's great, God, that, that you thought of us and that we were picked, among, all the, one of the families in the church to be blessed. I'm grateful. And I did not expect, I was like, that's it. Next year, we'll figure it out. You know, when it comes to Christmas, I was not even worried. But God, it happened again the following year. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, wow. It's very rare that they pick the same families each year, because they do say that, because it was a big church. So they wanted it to be, fair, and a lot can happen in a year. Or a family could be struggling one year and then the next year, they could be blessed and they're doing well. And that blessing that they received on Christmas could be the encouragement that they needed and that hope that they needed. And then the following year, they could be doing better. So it wasn't the same families every year. So I was even more surprised when they contacted me again. They're like, you were picked. And I was like, again? Like, we have gifts for you. They sent me a message. We have gifts for you. Make sure to come and, let us know when you have time to come pick them up, and we'll help you load them up. And again, I was just like, I was not expecting much because, it's $50 is a lot, especially if it's a big family, but I only have two kids, so it's $100 that the family is spending on us. And, but $100, I mean, wherever that family shopped, actually both families shop, they really know how to shop because they got a lot of stuff with that $100. I mean, my trunk was full again the second year around. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like, wow. And even my in laws were like, this is excessive. This is too much. Like, oh my goodness. Like, they shouldn't be getting this many gifts, to make them so spoiled. And I was just like, well, it's not like I asked for it. I did not pray for it. I did not ask for it. I didn't say anything to the church. That's God. Like, God thought to bless us, and he blessed us again. He blessed my kids again. You know, I may not deserve it. We don't deserve all the good things that God does for us, but he does so much for us, even though we don't deserve it. So I was just like, I did not pray for it. It's not like something else like, Lord, can I have a trunk full of gifts for my kids? It just like he just blessed us that way. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I was overwhelmed myself. I was like, oh my gosh, where are we going to put all these toys? Where are we going to put all these gifts? Because mind you, we are, we're in one room because we're living in a household full of like, there's like 8 of us in one house. So all our stuff, is in one room. And then we have other things in storage. So it's just like, oh my gosh, we don't have a lot of space. We had to be mindful of, space. We're trying not to be hoarders. And we have all these gifts. So it was amazing, just how God blessed us, and just thought of, my kids in a time, in a hard season in our lives. And, you know, I hope, you just encourage that even in hard seasons, God will still favor you, will give you blessings, will give you what you need. Sometimes it's not what you want, but it'll always give you what you need. Um, and sometimes he'll just give you a little surprise just to give you hope, just to encourage you, just to bring joy. He wants you to be filled with joy. He wants you to have to be happy. He doesn't want you to be depressed or sad, but he does want you to trust him, to look to him, to seek him first. And I just wanted to share that. And I'm glad I watched that testimony before, because really it was a nice reminder of how great God was in a time where I did not expect him to do that. Like, I was just praying and hoping that we would get all our bills paid on time. I know some people, when they hear that, you don't pay rent, they're just like, oh, I guess then you don't have any bills. But there's so many bills that you need to pay. There's car payment, insurance, power. I had the hospital bill that I needed to pay, because from the C-section I had with my daughter, my son was covered because when I had him, I was not working. So um, insurance covered his. But with my daughter, I was working, and insurance didn't only covered, I think, like 40%. So I had, you know, to make payments on that. So there's other bills that we were, worried about, that we had to make sure they were paid on time. So the last thing on our minds was buying gifts, a bunch of gifts for our kids for Christmas. So that was a wonderful surprise. I'm so grateful for that God did that for my kids. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. I will see you in the next video. Bye.